I've been back and forth on whether or not to even make a video covering this topic because I've talked about a lot of it extensively for the last couple years, but today someone on board the team made a statement that is so laughably awful and so goofy, I just felt compelled to once again go over the entire situation and then focus in on that statement. But I recognize that this one person doesn't speak for the entire movie or the entire brand behind it, but it's such a tragically silly statement that they put out that it's hard not to laugh at it. So, The Flash is right around the corner. It's a DC movie that a lot of people are excited for, obviously. However, it's got its fair share of controversy because Ezra Miller plays the Flash. I have covered Ezra Miller's shenanigans over the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been, extensively. Ezra Miller is an absolute menace, a fiend. How Ezra Miller is not in the slammer right now boggles my mind and makes me believe in real-life cheat codes. Of course, the cheat code being fame and money. The list of crimes and accusations against Ezra is longer than the terms of service when signing up to iTunes. It's like 5 full novels worth of accusations against Ezra. It's a ton of shit. It is ridiculous. But I'm not here to really, harp on any of that, because again, I've covered it for quite some time. Ezra Miller's out here like a literal SpongeBob villain, committing as many crimes as possible over the last 2 years, collecting them like Pokemon cards. But it had no effect on The Flash. The movie is still coming out with, of course, Ezra Miller at the front lines, lead role, and it's been a bit of a blemish for the brand's reputation because obviously, alleged kidnapping as well as a myriad of other alleged crimes and assaults and all kinds of unpleasant things. That's not empty calories. Those are pretty serious things. So the top level suits have clearly poured a ton of money into the Flash, well north of 9 figures. This is a $100 million+ production, and they obviously don't want to see it go right down the shitter, so they've been trying everything they can to mitigate the damage caused from all of this controversy. They've tried tackling it head on about, an Ezra forgiveness arc and this and that, but that hasn't really gone over well. The Accutane wasn't curing the acne here. The zit persisted, so they've tried a different approach. It's called radio silence. They're playing the no-talking game when it comes to Ezra Miller. I believe they've forbidden Ezra from even being on the PR tour, which I think the reasoning is pretty clear because you never know what might happen with Ezra Miller on a PR tour here. Shit might pop off and another chair gets thrown at an audience member during karaoke. Unpredictable. You're playing Russian roulette. So they decided put Ezra Miller on the bench. And that's been their main tactic, making sure that the Flash launch is as squeaky clean as possible. However, this strategy of not talking about Ezra Miller wasn't relayed to one person in particular, the production designer, who made a statement today that said, Ezra Miller's performance is so good in this movie that people will forget the crimes. This movie is so good you're gonna forget all of these crimes. I guarantee it. That's innovative marketing right there. So we go into a meat writing session here where the production designer is just singing the praises of Miller and all the work that was put in, talking about the pressure with, of course, the public being aware of all of the terrible things going on outside of the production with Miller. And having to deal with all that pressure on set, and also just working super hard, only taking 3 days off during the entire shoot. A real fucking champion, a real hero, filming 6 days a week, and Miller did their own stunts. So really just pumping their fists, yeah, this is what hard work is all about. The crimes are meaningless now. Look at this work. And it's not, what's wild is it's not even that far-fetched of an idea. It's actually something that's been employed many times in the past. So, for example, Riot Games fell into some hot water for a brief period of time due to a lot of nasty allegations coming to light about harassment, sexual stuff, and just a very awful working environment at Riot Games, and they were sued for it. They were facing a massive lawsuit. In fact, one of the reports I vaguely remember talked about how they used to hotbox cubicles with farts. So like one of the Riot heads would go in there and just start fucking farting in people's like workspaces, which I always imagine is the most over the top shit. Like he's doing combat roles in the office like James Bond and using his ass as like a weapon with a silencer on it and just like firing poop particles in people's directions. But they had a lot of like these terrible things that all came to light. Eventually they did settle for a massive settlement. Fucking $100 million settlement. That's a lot of doubloons. But the point is, when the public was made aware of what was going on here behind the closed doors, Riot started releasing information on upcoming projects that got people really excited. So people stopped talking so much about all of the awful workplace stuff and instead focused on all of the incredible things Riot was cooking up in the kitchen that they were now releasing a lot of information about. So the timing always made me feel like Riot's strategy was, okay, this is all bad, but what if we can take people's attention away from the bad stuff and instead put it on these projects that we know they want? So that's what they did, and a lot of people totally forgot any of this ever happened. So if that was the strategy, it worked very well. It's also what Logan Paul did. Logan Paul was facing a ton of hot water because of all the crypto zoo shit, and instead of like, trying to swim around in the swamp, he instead just let all of that happen and then did incredible work in the WWE. He had amazing performances in the WWE, so then people stopped focusing on all of the crypto zoo and all the scamming stuff, and instead focused on like, wow, Logan Paul is like a really good WWE performer. So now that's mainly all people talk about there. It's a strategy that actually has been used a lot, and it's really effective. So them saying like Ezra Miller's acting in this movie is so good you're gonna forget all the crimes is not really the most outlandish thing ever. It's just pretty bold to just say that out loud. Like, yeah, his acting is so good, all these crimes, you're not going to care about him. Fuck all the victims and all that. They're going to watch this movie and be blown away by the performance. They're going to stop caring that they were a victim. I just love that the production designer got so excited. They're like, these crimes, who cares? It's a bunch of hoo-ha in the grand scheme of this movie. This movie is more important than any of that. In Miller's performance, it stands on its own two legs. Damn the crimes. To hell with the accusations and the controversy. What matters is the Flash. I don't know. I just found that to be like really entertaining to read that. I'm kind of surprised that the production designer would actually say that. I imagine all of the people, like the higher ups, are probably right now with their hands over their face, just in agony now that this interview's out there. Because they were so close to launch here. And, not many people have been talking about all of the Ezra Miller crimes. Now they're more focused on the hype of The Flash. DC's been shitting the bed, obviously. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, what an embarrassment and an absolute flop. So DC really needs this one to be a home run. And it's been a while now, so a lot of people have already kind of stopped talking about all of the Ezra Miller controversy. But this interview, once again, brings it to the forefront, which I imagine is the last thing they want right before this movie comes out. So I just wanted to talk about it because, a bit of a misstep here, a bit of a blunder taking this interview and saying that. But again, it's one person. I know the production designer doesn't speak for the whole company, but it's certainly not helpful to to say, the performance was so good for Miller that the crimes people are going to forget about. It's not a great look. It's really about it. See ya.